Welcome back. So today we're going to read a story titled Thank You, Omu, and this is written by Oge Mora. Note to reader, Omu, pronounced Omu, is the Igbo term for queen. Thank you, Omu. On the corner of First Street and Long Street, on the very top floor, Omu was cooking a thick red stew in a big fat pot for a nice evening meal. She seasoned and stirred it and took a small taste. "What a delicious stew," Omu said. "Tonight's dinner will surely be the best I have ever had." With that, Omu put down her spoon and went to read a book before supper. As the thick red stew simmered on the stove, its scrumptious scent wafted out the window and out the door, down the hall, toward the street, and around the block until, knock, someone was at the door. When Omu opened it, she saw a little boy. "Little boy," Omu exclaimed, "what brings you to my home?" "I was playing with my race car down the hall when I smelled the most delicious smell," the little boy replied. "What is it?" "Thick red stew." Stew," he sighed. "That sure sounds yummy." Omu thought for a moment. She was saving her stew for dinner, but she had made quite a bit. It would not hurt to share. "Would you like some?" The little boy nodded. And so Omu spooned out some thick red stew from the big fat pot for her nice evening meal. "Thank you, Omu," the little boy said, and he went on his way. With that, Omu closed the door and went back to her book. As she read, her thick red stew's scrumptious scent wafted out the window and out the door, down the hall, toward the street, and around the block until someone was at the door. When Omu opened the door, this time she saw a police officer. "Miss Police Officer," Omu exclaimed, "what brings you to my house?" "I was on duty down the street when I smelled the most delicious smell," Mrs. Police Officer replied. "What is it?" "Thick red stew." "Ah, stew," she said, and her mouth watered. "That sounds mighty tasty." Omu thought for a moment. There was still enough to share. "Would you like some?" The police officer nodded. Once again, Omu spooned out some thick red stew from the big fat pot for her nice evening meal. "Thank you, Omu," the officer said, and went on her way. And so for the second time, Omu closed the door and went back to her book. Sure enough, as she read, her thick red stew's scrumptious scent wafted out the window and out the door, down the hall, toward the street, and around the block until, again, someone was at Omu's door. This time, when she opened it, she saw a hot dog vendor. "Mr. Hot Dog Vendor," Omu exclaimed, "what brings you to my house?" "I was selling my hot dogs down the block when I smelled the most delicious smell," Mr. Hot Dog Vendor replied. "What is it?" "Thick red stew." "Ooh, stew," the vendor licked his lips. "That sounds quite delectable." So Omu spooned out some thick red stew from the big fat pot for her nice evening meal. "Thank you, Omu," the hot dog vendor said, and went on his way. Throughout the day, people from all across the neighborhood knocked on Omu's door. She fed a shop owner, a cab driver, a doctor, an actor, a lawyer, a dancer, a banker, an artist, a singer, an athlete, a bus driver, a construction worker. Even the mayor stopped by. And each time they knocked, Omu shared. Soon the sky darkened, the streetlights brightened, and it was finally time for dinner. But when Omu opened her big fat pot of red thick stew for her nice evening meal, it was empty. Omu sniffed. "There goes the best dinner I ever had." Sorry and blue, she sat on the table with her empty pot until, knock, 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 knock. Who could that be? Omu wondered. When she opened the door, she saw The little boy, the police officer, the hot dog vendor, the shop owner, the cab driver, the doctor, the actor, the lawyer, the dancer, the baker. Why, everyone she fed today was out the door. I'm sorry, everyone, Omu sighed. My thick red stew is all gone. I have nothing left to share. The little boy tugged at Amu's sleeve. Don't worry, Omu. We are not here to ask. We are here to give. The police officer carried in a fresh salad. The mayor entered with a roast chicken. The baker brought a collection of sweet goodies. Even the little boy presented Omu with something special in a shiny red envelope. Everyone who had knocked on Amu's door that day squeezed inside her tiny apartment, and together they ate, danced, and celebrated. While Amu's big fat pot of thick red stew was empty, her heart was full of happiness and love. That dinner was the best she had ever had. Thank you, Omu. Author's note: in Igbo, the Nigerian language of my parents, Omu means queen, yet for me growing up, it meant grandma. When my grandmother cooked, she danced and swayed her hips to the radio as she stirred what was often a large pot of stew. In the evening, my family would come together at the dinner table for her meal. If a neighbor was visiting, they were invited. If a friend had stopped by, they were invited. Everyone in the community had a seat at my grandmother's table. While my grandmother has since passed, her giving heart has stayed with me. I see it in my mother, my godmother, my teachers, my mentors, and other countless powerful women who shaped my life. This book is a celebration of their loving, giving spirit. Thank you. And that's the end. What a beautiful story this was. I love the message that it sends, and even though Omu gave all she had, at the end, there were so many people that were so grateful that they decided to give back to her, and that ended up being the best meal that she had ever had. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time. Bye.